Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to pick up on something that you mentioned earlier in regards to a healthy tension between two CCOs, I know there's been a bit of chit-chat around the troops on that. I think it has indeed actually been a healthy tension. But I must note in an informal way that reading the report, I've seldom, if ever, read a report that comes across as a he said, she said type development and rather amusing in a good sense. It did remind me, though, of somewhat of making a movie. If you're going to have a intrigue and political intrigue at that. So I wonder whether we could take some advancements on the types of movies.
Sunday horror.
Exactly. So I think we've got a prime candidate over there and Councillor Walker for another remake of Wayne's World. What about it, Wayne? Councillor Quacks, Brewer and George Wood is the Three Amigos. That'd be a good one. And of course the Two Pennies is Money Pennies. A little bit of Daniel Craig wouldn't go amiss, would it?
No.
Madam Chairwoman?
Bring it on.
Old would help right now, I can tell you.
It would help.
Are you talking about me, Councillor Crump?
I think the closest we get is Austin Powers sitting over there. But
Right, we better move on before we get ourselves in real hot water here. So what's needed, I want to pick up on a word that the very eloquent Lisa White raised, and that's certainty. Everyone just needs a bit of certainty. And what we need is clear messages here, tight time frames. We are a little bit tired of iterations and reiterations. The market needs certainty. HLC needs certainty. So I think, given that we have some very interesting developments via AT's quest for a film precinct, and they should be acknowledged for the robust market testing that they've done to date, but clearly they're going to need 3 more months to dial it up even further, and I think they've really got their work cut out for them. So, I mean, we understand right at this point that the EOIs are plentiful and serious in terms of the film precinct. Are you doing a Three Amigos dance over there, Councillor Brewer?
Trying to do a little bit of Austin Powers with Fiona Cunningham.
All right, okay. So, like my colleague to my left, Councillor Watson, there's a few undergirding principles for me, and I thought his list was excellent. One is that we do need to be wary of short-term gains, and we need a robust analysis of long-term benefits. It's what we should be doing all the time, even if those long-term benefits may involve a certain degree of risk. We need to be internationally competitive, simple as that. So if we're looking to grow Auckland's GDP, we need high-value jobs in a high-growth industry. And employment is a massive factor, as Councillor Watson also pointed out. And it's not just in line with some of the question that I asked earlier for what's happening in the Chinese film sector and government signals with that, and the scope that presents. It's also local industry, local TV productions here in Auckland. So it's very, very prospectively important for them too. We also need more private sector involvement in things that we do going forward, where we can not delve into public sector involvement and ratepayer undergirding. In this current climate and environment, that's very important for us. And finally, acknowledging community needs. So it's safe to say that both ACPL and ATED have been very careful and vocal to acknowledge that community needs strand coming through. Finally, I'll just end with assuring those who have inherent concerns about whether the ATED screen proposal will have legs in finality. It is just 3 months. It's just 3 months. 3 months that not only do you have 3 months and then we switch back to something, if you read those very last words in clause M, the 14.6 master plan by ACPL will be adopted. You can't get much more clearer than that. So it's not just reverting back to that discussion, it will be adopted. So it's a 3-month lock-it-in phase. Thank you, David for opening up with saying that those 3 months won't materially affect what you've got going on. So I think we should give this a shot, and it's a shot with clear time frame and heading towards that certainty that we all seek.
It's a 6 months
Councillor
work.
Crum. I've got Councillor Casey, Walker, Rua, and Filipaina. So speaking to the motion, we're just going to get a little bit of clarity, probably a bit of over-enthusiasm on my part. Mr. Quinn's wisely sought a bit of clarification on our current site, the Auckland Film Studios site. We think we may have, the staff are just checking, not too sure if they've got exactly the right address, but it's industrial, currently zoned industrial.
It's currently light and industrial. Brett thinks that there's a plan change underway that may be so I've got the team trying to check on that. I just wanted to make sure we haven't misled you, and I will come back to you at some point, but I may not be this afternoon, unfortunately.
Because over the road we've got the big housing development happening, but that might not have crossed the road.
Yeah, through the chair, my understanding is that the zoning is currently light industrial,
Yep.
but there is residential development in close proximity.
There is the one we're doing. Councillor Casey.
Let me just ask first about process. Is it first in, first served? So this is up. This is the option that we're now.
That's
It's now
the
been
recommendations that we've got. Yep, it's been
So
moved
that will
and
either be
seconded.
voted for or against. So I should
Exactly.
amend it then. I'd like to take out the word freehold, and I'll make the same speech as I did this morning. So this is the one that we're discussing, because this is not the one I support. I do support the master plan,
So we had, yep,
but I can't
so
talk to that
if
because
this is
this one's up
voted
there.
down, then the master plan one will come up. But we
So
had to
if we're
make,
discussing
if you
that,
read the agenda, we have to make a choice between two options, and councillor Close moved this option, and I'm seconding it.
so that's what I'm saying, first in, first served. Right.
Well, we had all the opportunity.
No,
to
I'm
ask
just
questions
clarifying the
first.
process. I've got it now. So
That's how it works.
I'm now looking at the new on this sheet, J. And I'd like to remove the word freehold for the same reason as I did this morning. This is a very expensive piece of real estate. There is absolutely no reason for us to be hawking it off at this stage. And I think we should take a lot more care right now when we go out to the market. So if there's a seconder, I will talk to the
Okay, well, I
Amendment.
mean, you
Madam
can
Chair,
put
is
it
she
up
trying to
as-
sabotage the opportunity here?
That's not a point of
I
order, Councillor.
let councillor Casey move an amendment, or, an amendment. If you've got a seconder, councillor, we can deal with that, and then we can move on. Is there a seconder for removing the word freehold? It lapses for want of a seconder.
Well, then I can speak to
You speak.
the motion, or rather speak against the motion. We've got two options here. One is to think big and speculate, or the other is to listen to the needs of the community. And I've read all the papers that have come before us. I've heard from the Upper Harbour Board, I've heard from Chris Aitken, I've heard from the Hobsonville Point Residents Association on more than one occasion. And basically, what we want, we're pushing special housing areas all over Auckland. We're thrashing them, we're whipping them. We usually have that councillor across there saying, stop dragging the chain, stop dragging the chain. And yet here we are today where we've got a prime site for 441 houses. 66 of those will be affordable. And let's just kind of fly a big kite. I don't really understand that, why we can be pushing so hard on one week and then the next week we're kind of allowing whatever to take place. So I like the idea of keeping the iconic building, developing it into a neighbourhood centre. I love the design work that came to the workshop. The community loves it, the local board, at least one of them loves it. I don't like what I see in terms of the stalag. Nobody's kind of worked that one out yet. Regardless of whether it's the universities in there, it's still a campus. And people tend not to go into campuses, if that's a plural. They tend not to wander through it. There's a foreboding about the film studio campus that I don't think is as welcoming as you would make out, Brett. And I know the devil's in the detail and all of that, but I do know that a neighbourhood centre, some parkland, a recreation facility and housing will be of more benefit to the locals than what's being proposed. And it also, the thing that you didn't mention, Brett, and that was mentioned by a couple of submitters today, is that the majority of these jobs are outside of Hobsonville Point, and so there's a great incoming into that area. So for all these reasons, I am voting against the motion as put. Thank you.
Yeah, just through the chair, one of the pieces of feedback that we've had is that there's a high likelihood that people want to live and work in this space, and one of the attractions of this site for the industry is the fact that it is new housing. Our view is that this brings high value jobs to a community. To have facilities in, to make commercial developments work in any community, you need to have people that work there. And
Film jobs are low paying.
And so the combination of jobs that are going to be likely to be animation, students, film productions. These are high value productions and high value jobs, which we believe will significantly add to the amenity of that local community and add to the viability of any facilities in that local community, whether it's restaurants, schools, etc. So there are. So that's part of the attraction of the site, because people will want to live and work in that community.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we've got Councillor Walker, Brewer, Philippina, and Close. So, and then I think we may well, and I. So we may well have through the list, and hopefully we're ready to make a decision. Councillor Walker.
Sure, I'm going to be supporting the motions there. I think they're entirely pragmatic, and I would urge other councillors to do likewise. For me, the most certain thing is that people need jobs. And we know, and there are any number of studies that will tell you across vast sectors of the workforce, jobs are being displaced. If there's one area where jobs are growing, it's in screen and especially digital. And especially digital, there is an absolute revolution happening there, and it's happening globally. So if we're going to get out of this circumstance where we're dependent on making low-value products and milk powder and going down an ever-decreasing, an ever-expanding path, then we've got a problem. This is an opportunity to get out of it. As far as I'm concerned, if I look at Hobsonville in terms of a fit for screen across transport, it's marvellous. It will increase the viability of the ferry service because people will be coming up for the ferry, so you'll have a double trip that's occupied. You'll have students coming up for education. It's going to be fantastic for jobs, and there are lots and lots of jobs and lots of high-value jobs. I know plenty of people in the digital space, and they make a lot of money. Yes, there are.
They do.
Yes, there are high-value jobs.
Absolutely.
People will be able to live and work there. I would certainly be interested in that if I was there, and I think other people would be. What's that? Well, be that as it may. I'll check that out when the time comes. So I think this is an entirely pragmatic option to give ourselves another 3 or 4 months. And maybe you might join me, Dick, considering, but you're a bit older than me.
Chariots of fire, Dick.
Don't have too many stars.
Okay.
I might look to your lead first.
Councillor Walker, do you want to wrap up your speech or your...
No.
So I'm
going
for
on.
it for the
He's
sake
in
of 3 or 4 months to get a definitive view.
Oh, yeah.
It's the way to go.